Hello, I'm Alan Simpson. I'm an independent distributor of Young Living authentic grade essential oils. And I want to tell you or explain something to you today that I feel is quite needed and interesting. It's fascinating to me anyway. It's about shape and sound, frequencies, orchestras, harmony. I've got two quick videos, only short. I just want to show you how sound creates a shape. The first one is just a speaker with corn flour and water in it. That's it. And I want you to watch this for a second and see how the sound makes a form. Okay, here we go. All it is a series of frequencies going through a speaker. They look like little people there, don't they? Quite fascinating. What you're actually seeing here is, on a physical level, cell division, structure being formed. I won't carry that on any longer. I'll stop it there. I'm hoping you can actually see some fascination of what I've just showed you. I know I did. The next video I want to show, again, I hope it will then show you a bit more on how our bodies are actually created through sound and how cell division takes place. You know, in our bodies we have the cell, and it has a mitosis. It's called mitosis, when the cell comes in on itself and then pulls apart. And it does it seems like so effortlessly. How's that possible? The next video will indeed show you that that is quite possible. Let's have a look. Now, to me, this is quite spectacular. How the sound resonating through either a sheet of glass or whatever, a flat surface with a speaker underneath, sand or salt being sprinkled on top. Can you hear the pitch? You can hear the sound changing, and a bit more sand is added, and the more sand's added, of course, creates the ability for it to create more cells, more structure, more shape. All it is a frequency. Bit more sand. Look at the cells divide. That's beautiful. You're seeing this on a Newtonian level, which is something you can hear, see, feel and touch. What's happening in our bodies is the same thing. Our bodies have a resonance of 62 to 68, the body from here down, and our neck up to the top of our head has a resonance anything up to 78 megahertz, from say 74 to 78. And believe it or not, it changes during the night time. It swaps. Look at the cell. Look how many cells are there now. I hope you're going, wow, and I hope this touches you, because it touched me. I am in awe at seeing frequency take on a shape, create structure. Even water is a crystalline structure that gets affected by our thoughts, just like Dr. Emoto did. Now, you've all seen the work of Dr. Emoto, how your thoughts actually create sound. Look at the cell division there. Our thoughts are a very, very high frequency. Now, there's another video I'd like to show you as well. Now, That one is called it's a split beam experiment. It's been around for many, many years. And in a minute I'll want to show you that one.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange never-world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
Let's take a look a little closer on how the sound makes a shape within the human body and what area we're actually talking about. Well, I'm going to do a little demonstration here using tuning forks. I'm going to draw a tuning fork here, and I'm going to draw another tuning fork here. And down here, I'm going to draw a cell. On this cell is gum trees. Strange concept, eh? Now we're talking about cells and gum trees. Where on earth is he going? I'm drawing gum trees because gum trees, or I don't know what trees you have on the other side of the world, but I know our gum trees have lots and lots and lots of leaves. So let's put some leaves in there. I won't go too overboard, but okay, there's some leaves. Every dot is a leaf. So how does sound relate to this? Well, if I was wanting to communicate to one of these little guys here, this leaf, but there's thousands of them, how would I find that? Let's say for a minute that this is a messenger, and it's actually related to, say, being any of those messengers like a neurotransmitter, like epinephrine, serotonin, melatonin, insulin, okay? That's the type of messenger I'm talking about that gets created by the endocrine system. Let's make this one insulin. And let's say that this other tuning fork is this little guy here. Did you know tuning forks have their own sound? I guess you did. They're tuned to a frequency. That's how you can tune a piano. Well, I'm going to give these a frequency. Say 440 Hz. And this one I'm going to make also 440 Hz, hertz. What's a hertz? Well, that means that if I plucked a string, that would vibrate 440 times per second. That's a hertz. That's all that means. No mystery in that one. So let's have a look at our tuning fork, shall we? Here they are. Common old tuning forks. What I want to demonstrate now is how this one will communicate to this one without even touching it. Some of you have probably already heard this or seen this before, but I find it fascinating. I'm going to put it close to the microphone here, so I do hope you can hear it. What it should do is, when I hit this one, it should, without touching them, just by being together, should communicate to this one, because they're actually both the same frequency. All right, you ready? I hit on the back of my hand. Could you hear that? I touched it on the mic just then to let you see that it was actually vibrating, but they didn't touch. We try it again. That one was very quiet, but I hope you were able to pick that up. These actually have individual frequencies. I'll just show you, there's a frequency meter you can actually buy with your iPhone, and it's very, very handy. I'll show you. See this? It gives you a sound in a waveform that gives you a number. And I think from memory this one is 416. 416 times per second that vibrates at. So I can actually change that number to maybe 416. So can you see how two sips of the same frequencies will actually communicate to each other? So now, let's go back to this again. We've got insulin looking for this. Because it's actually sounding, it can make the differentiation between this one and all of the other ones purely because of a sound. Now, what happens if this one gets something on it? What's going to happen to its sound? For a start, this would no longer be 440, would it? This might go down to 380, which means the resonance or the sympathetic response, where did we hear that word before? Doesn't our body have a sympathetic nervous system and a parasympathetic nervous system? That's a communication channel to different organs. Interesting. So all of this is related. So now we've altered this frequency. So how's the insulin going to find the receptor? Another way to look at this, that's a lock, that's a key, that's a lock. The key has to find the lock. How's it going to find the lock if it's playing the wrong tune? Or if it's blocked with something? Might be blocked with a xenoestrogen, which is an artificial female hormone. What is an artificial estrogen? Well, let's have a look. Try shampoos. Sodium lauryl sulfate's in most shampoos, or sodium lauryl sulfate. You've got propylene glycol. You've got triethanolamine, diethanolamine, DATA. You've also got, in water, you've got trihalomethanes. They're also, as in when you flush a toilet, that stuff can come up. They're all artificial hormones. What about your toothpaste? What are you using in your toothpaste? Can I say name brands here? Colgate, excuse me. What about, excuse me, McLean's? Oh dear, I don't know how, I must have some sort of allergies. There's two of those toothpastes, they both have very high sodium fluoride in them. They've both got triclosan. Now, you know, these chemicals are deadly. And we're all brushing our teeth with them. Well, I'm not. Your kids are. These companies should be up for child abuse. Guess what they are doing? Creating these on receptors. They're energetic bumps of different, say, carbon, hydrogen. Remember how we did the oil talk? And we have carbon. It's a valence of 4. It's got 4 positions or 4 hands. Hydrogen has 1 hand. And these like holding each other. That's a hydrogen, that's a carbon. The bond between these two is very, very strong. Similar to the bond between an energy of a chemical or a thought can bond to a tuning fork or receptor. Does that make sense? I really hope it does, because there's such a relationship here going on at a frequency level of billions of times per second, outside of the human ear range. Our range is actually quite minimal in comparison. Do you want to see a demonstration of that? Let me show you. Here's the iPhone again. I'll bring up that frequency. Let me come a bit closer here. I'll bring up the frequency meter. I'm going to get it to play a sound. Can you hear that? I'm going to go up an octave, another octave, getting higher, another octave. Look at that, gone. That's because the sound now is off the range that our ears can hear. I'm sorry about me being a bit off the page there. But come back down and you get lower, gone again. So we've gone to both ends of this spectrum. Either side, you can't hear it. Does that demonstrate how our ears can only hear certain sounds from certain wavelengths from here to here, very short. There's a lot happening out this side of our range on the low side, there's a lot happening on this side on our high side. So much happening on the high side that it goes up through all of the essential oils. It goes up, like the human body goes to essential oils, goes to colour, and goes to white light. That's how high these actually go. It's infinity frequencies, all have a sound. So this bond that's holding this chemical to this tuning fork, which could be, say, a piece of chewing gum stuck on here. That's enough to change it. But I'm now talking energetically at a level that we can't hear. So now, what would do that? Like I said before, is a chemical, artificial estrogen, xenobiotic, whatever. The bond is so strong that here it is here, hydrogen and carbon. There's nothing that'll break that bond unless you blew it apart with an atomic reaction, or you cut it out with a knife, or you poisoned it with something. It's the only way you're going to get it out of the human body. I don't know about you, but I don't like either of those three options. In the old days, they used to have a lot of, well, we still have it now too, but a lot of meditation. Did you know that conscious thought is the highest frequency that we know? That is prayer as well. Prayer meditation is the highest frequency. That's a sound that we can't hear. So when you think, that's a sound, it's a frequency. So how now, knowing that, how can we get rid of this? We can't cut it, we can't burn it, we can't poison it, we can't blow it out because we're going to cause damage to ourselves. Sound is the only way to do it. We can meditate it, and now this does happen in some parts of the world. Meditation is very powerful. Us in the West, I think we're a little bit slow. We don't seem to catch up to that very easy. We have biofeedback devices. The indigo, which Linda, my wife, uses, very powerful in altering frequency. The essential oils are very powerful in altering frequency. The beauty about the oils is that you can actually take them home. You can use them individually because each one has its own frequency. Peppermint here, it has a frequency of 78 megahertz. Can I hear it? No, it's outside that range. But nevertheless, it has a sound. I'll just have a drop here. I love that. I've just increased the frequency of my body up higher, resonating with this particular oil. So back to this. How can we get rid of this? Can't do it those three ways that I mentioned. So what about we put a frequency that will actually remove this gently through a higher vibration? Let me explain. Let's try an essential oil of hyssop. Now am I spelling hyssop? Yeah. That has substances in it called, let me rub this off here. Hope you can still see this if it's not getting down too low. Maybe no, it'll be right. We have phenols, or phenylpropanoids, I won't write the whole bit. We've got monoterpenes and sesquiterpenes. Those three compounds are very much in perfect ratio in hyssop. Hyssop is a beautiful oil. In fact, you might remember thousands of years ago, hyssop was used during the Bible times. King David actually was a bit of a perv and a bit questionable in some of the things that he did, and you know what happened to Bathsheba, and somehow she ended up pregnant. Don't know how that happened. But then he killed the husband and blah blah blah. Well, he actually had to then purge himself of this lust and this problem he had. And in the Bible, it does actually say that wash me with hyssop. Purge me with hyssop and wash me, I will be whiter than snow. Now that's in Psalms, can't remember now, but you can look it up easy enough. Also, the hyssop was mixed with lamb's blood in Egypt to put on top of the sprinkle on the doorposts, so the plague wouldn't affect them. That's a very good as a antiviral, antibacterial oil. But the frequency of it has this perfect ratio, and which I'll explain now what these actually do, because they can stop you from, help you with prayer to be able to purge yourself of things that you do that you don't want to do. Let's have a look at the first one, phenols. If I was to get an unbalanced view of phenols, well, I'd pick up oregano, or oregano for you people on the other side of the world who don't understand the Aussie lingo. This is a very, very hot cutting oil. And this is one that I will not put under the tongue because it blows my head off. It is a very powerful oil. I can put it on my head, however. You can see the drips going on there. I do that regularly because it's very good for my hair growth. As you can see, it's getting actually it was thinner. It's now coming back. I've been doing this for about 10 years. I put all sorts of oils in my hair. But if an average person put oregano in their hair, or oregano in their hair, it would burn them like there was a fire going on. And you'd have to get the fire extinguisher out and blast to cool it down. It can make people very hot. With me, it doesn't. It doesn't do anything because its main job is to convert acid to alkaline. And during that conversion period, it gives off heat. So a bit like a fridge gas. When fridges are changing gas from liquid to gas, they can give off heat or they can freeze. Very much the same principle. So if you're acid, the job of an oil is to convert into a more alkaline environment before it can do the job. So if you're using an oil and it's not getting you're not getting results, check, because it could be a good reason why, and that would be because you're doing something that's causing acid in your body, and the oil's job first is to convert. So the oil won't get to where it's going to go unless you've actually your pH is in the right spot. The job of this is to correct pH. Also one of the strongest antibiotics in the world. So now, that is very high in phenols. Remember, hyssop has a balance of phenols. Now the job of phenol is, if you had a piece of wood here and a file, the files are actually called bastard files because they're very, very raspy, very, very cutting and very rough. And so you can rip into a piece of timber and make a groove in it just by moving this file up and down because it has very big spikes on it. So that is a phenol in a chemical term or a sound term. If you put that into this little bump up here, right? You put a phenol onto that, it's going to energetically, like a sound, remember if you sing the right note, you can actually crack a glass, crack crystal. So you sing the right note, you can energetically remove this without any damage. It actually ends up going back into the bloodstream for distribution to other areas like skin, lungs, bowel, as elimination. Which is where you get your when you're cleansing, you can get some toxicity happening if you don't cleanse the right way or you cleanse too much, because these are going back into the bloodstream and you can get quite toxic or poison yourself. So what's the next one? Sesquiterpenes. Look at this, PMS. Wrong PMS. But sesquiterpenes' job is to go in once the phenols has ripped this out, and it'll actually reline this receptor or cleanse it, getting it ready for the monoterpenes to go in and get the sound going again, or put the signature of God back into it. Allow the receptor to hum again. Do you understand that? Very, very important concept. Now, once you've done that, this, which is the insulin, imagine this is on the receptor and it's been blocked. The insulin can then come along and start communicating again. You could actually lose being insulin resistant, which is what happens with a lot of diabetics, is they are insulin resistant, which means these get blocked. The communication channel's gone. Insulin floats around in the blood and can't actually get to where it wants to go. Man, that's going to increase, it actually ends up as triglycerides, increase plaque, and the process goes on, and not very nice. The insulin must get to where it needs to go. Some estrogens, or xenoestrogens, artificial female hormones, can look like this. They can completely block these receptors. Now, that makes it completely inoperable. And perfumes are going to do that. Aftershaves, deodorant, like I said, toothpaste, as we've already mentioned, face creams. How many people are putting sorbolene on their face? It's just a pure petrochemical. Do a Google search and say ingredients of sorbolene and just read it. Open up your eyes and absolutely blow you away of what is actually in these so-called clean products. If you won't eat it, don't wear it. I've got an oil here, a bit of a sidetrack. It's called Clariderm. Can you see that? Clariderm has in it myrrh, it's got melaleuca, or alternifolia, which is a tea tree, lavender. It has frankincense, love frankincense, that's the Boswellia carteri frankincense, Roman chamomile, helichrysum, and it's in coconut oil. Now, this blend was made for female situations or problems with candida, thrush, and sorry to mention all that, but it can be sprayed in some very delicate areas in males and females. Now, I can get this oil or blend and go like this on the face, and watch. You can see it go in my mouth? I can put it in my mouth. I can take it internally. Use that as a guide and go into your cupboard, and I want you to scrutinise everything. And if you can't eat it, what business have you got putting it on your skin? Let me give you another point. What's in your stomach? Remember we already spoke about it, if you've seen that other video on digestion? You have a pH of 2.5. That's enough to destroy a nail. Even if it's a little bit higher, 3, it's still a very harsh environment. What's your skin pH? 5.5, if you're healthy. Big difference between 5.5 and 2.5. The reason why your skin's 5.5, a little bit on the acid side, is to be able to fight bacteria. So what do you think is the best environment for protection from a chemical? An acid environment or a more alkaline environment? What's going to break it down and cause less harm? The stomach or the skin? Now you're probably going to think that's not really a viable argument, but I believe it is. If you are going to put something that's not quite right into your stomach, your body has a chance of breaking it down, and either, if it realises it's really bad, you could actually vomit it up. Or your body can allow it to pass through that hose, which is your gastrointestinal system, and come out the other end without actually getting absorbed. You've also got fat tissues or adipose tissues that poison could actually be stored in on the way through. You have got some very good mechanisms to protect your body from substance that shouldn't be there. What's your skin got? What happens here? If those sizes of those molecules are small enough, the atomic mass, or AMUs, the atomic mass unit, or the atomic weight of an object, especially chemicals which have a very small benzene ring, which means they are volatile and easily absorbed, they're going to go into your skin and into your cells and start becoming part of you a lot quicker than even your stomach, if you've drunken it or you've eaten it. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because it's got it's actually quite viable in that understanding for it to be possible. That's why I say, if you won't eat it, why would you wear it? Go to your kitchen, go to your bathroom, go into where your toilet is, and check every chemical that you've got in the house. If you pick it up and you read something in there that's not edible or is a chemical, the best process is to throw it, because if you're spraying it in the air, if you're putting it on your skin, if you're just simply breathing it from a fume, not actually a spray particle, that's landing on your skin and you're going to get a toxic reaction. May take 40 years, may take 50 years, but your liver is going to absorb, is going to react, and can actually block and form these artificial estrogens. Now, hang on a minute, that should be an E there, sesquiterpene. I always say that wrong, it's a sesquiterpene, not a sesquiterpene. Anyway, minor problem. So, I hope that this gives you a little bit more of an understanding of what constitutes sound in the body and what it relates to, and how we can actually remove chemicals from our bodies.